This is a story about the stories we tell ourselves, the stories we live out in the world, and the space between those two. It's about how we love, how we lose, and how we recover, or not, through the stories we make up in our heads. I'm Robin Rice, and this is also my story. Chapter 14. Getting Ready. But for what? Friendship is a story, only sometimes the kind with a beginning, a middle, and an end. Other times it has the essence of forever. This kind comes with ease. These friends you just know in that way you just know all the other things you just know. You may not recognize it for what it is at first glance, a story of spirit. But looking back, you see it clearly. Time means nothing when the friendship story is of spirit. The commitment is a feeling, not a contract, not a trade or a bargaining or a buying and selling. Empathy is knitted into the fabric of the story. Who knows by what unseen force? It is simply there. Encouragement is always on offer. Loyalty, too. Trust goes unspoken. Support is mutual and leaned into. Vulnerability a given and so highly respected. Listening is given and received. Honesty is assumed and the measure of safety taken refuge in. Time together is made, carved out, and if needed, stolen, not merely hoped for. There is patience and reliability, belonging, and so many other of the best of our human connections. Forgiveness is easy until a wound cuts so deep as to leave a scar. Then there is real story mending to do. Betrayal is a rough, ragged tear. The story scars of who did what, and why, and which promissory bond was forgotten or cast aside, can and must be forgiven. But they still ache after the fact. Yet even here, with true friendship, there is a kind of bond that remains miraculously intact. The feeling survives even the worst of transgressions. We can meet a friend for only one day in real time and yet feel connected for life. We can meet for an hour after decades apart and not skip a beat. It is important to note that our friendship stories do not start at hello, though. We each come to a new friend with a string of other friendship stories behind us, created at earlier stages of maturity. And so we come to this new friendship with a history of needs and desires, fears and insecurities. Our expectations are rarely explicit and often unconscious. If other friends have betrayed us, we will expect it again, possibly even arrange for it in unconscious ways, just to prove ourselves right. Though there are no contracts to sign, we feel a commitment of the heart. With time, after showing up when needed again and again, in a moment of great need, we trust something solid will be there. For me, I had come to a very great need. Either I was going insane, a very real possibility, or something seemingly impossible was actually happening in my life. The instinct to tell Terry Nebaker was surprising, obvious, intuitive, and, in retrospect, spot on. Enter the labyrinth. I met Terry, my 25 years old to her 28, at our pediatrician's office when our firstborn babies were only a week old. She was embarrassed to tell me that in her baby brain fog, she'd forgotten to bring $1 to get out of the parking lot. Could she borrow one? That began what would be a 30-year friendship through every stage of our motherhood and personal lives. By the time our firstborns were 4 years old, we each had secondborns, and I proposed quite formally, with a letter, that we enter into a deep and lifelong friendship. She was taken aback, but pleased. She formally accepted. So as I picked up the phone after my experience, I realized I hadn't spoken to her or anyone much as I was going through my divorce. Even so, I knew we would not need much preamble. Also, that she would be open to hearing about my strange experiences. She faithfully attended a fair in Oregon where she went topless for a week every year, which made her as fringe as anyone I knew by a very clear margin. Yet she was also highly mainstream. In fact, she was my inspiration for a tummy tuck soon after our seconds were born. Why not, she asked, as if our bodies were our choice. Indeed, I said. She went first and loved it. I went less than a year later and never regretted it, not for a moment. Terry was a natural listener and enthusiastically supportive. Later in life, her business card would read, optimistic. Long before, I knew she wouldn't think I was insane. Well, she might, but if so, she could be counted on to help me figure out what had pushed me off the deep end. She answered the phone, and I let it all spill out, ending with, "You must think I'm crazy," even though my other aspect had suggested that I not use that word. Terry immediately said she didn't think so. Instead, she was fascinated and wanted to know more, every detail. "That's all I remember," I said when I had raked over the story coals a few more times. "So what do I do now?" "I don't know," she said, "but there's a New Age store near me that has a board for workshops and people who help with things. You could go to someone," she offered. "Help with things?" I asked, more scared than skeptical, but plenty skeptical too. "Psychics, healers, shamans, all sorts," she said. "It's not far from me. I'll go get some names later this week, or we could meet there and you could pick some out yourself." I wanted to see for myself, so a few days later, I met her at the magical shop. She greeted me with an excited glee, still reveling in my story. I looked around. There were crystals, statues, icons, goddess paraphernalia, tons of books, and a huge shelf of what were called divination cards. The shop was small, but a whole new world opened. Terry watched me in wonder, partly because I was so excited, partly because she couldn't believe all of this was new to me. "How is it I never knew any of this?" I asked. "I mean, I know nothing about things in here." I had never mentioned seeing dead people to her, and I didn't elaborate right then, but I knew now that one day I would. She shook her head. "I guess you weren't ready." Ready for what, I thought, but did not say. Ready for exactly what? I grabbed a dozen business cards for people offering varied services, a newspaper for the New Age industry, again, who knew, and some flyers for events and workshops. I left with yet another handful of books, including a set of animal-based divination cards. I wasn't sure why, as I was never a big animal person. I guess it was the shamanism thing ringing a bell again. "I'm ready to get ready," I said to her as we hugged goodbye. "I'd say," she replied, smiling. "Definitely tell me how it goes." Within days, I had a set of names, phone numbers, and a spreadsheet on hand to take notes. I promised myself I would find the best of the best, methodically test each one, and try to find something, anything that resembled a cohesive story. Today, I can laugh at my attempts to wade into the shallow end of the pool of all that is. Back then, I was taking it plenty seriously. I made my first appointment in a prove-it-to-me state of mind. I would do my best to give nothing away to any psychic, healer, or mumbo-jumbo touting bizarro away. I thought I'd start with a dozen experiences, all of different kinds, and cross-reference what each person said. That should reveal something, I thought. To start, I wanted to talk to someone who talked to dead people. In part to talk to my own dead people, should that actually be possible, but also to research exactly how it worked for others with my curse/gift. I'd never done it on purpose, and until now didn't know there were other people, I mean real people, authentically well-intended people, who did. Sure, there were 800 numbers to call. Everyone knew that. Everyone laughed at that. But real people who took this stuff seriously? I didn't realize. It was probably a gag or rigged or super basic info I told myself when I made the first appointment. But I was smart, even if crazy or something like crazy. So I wasn't going to be fooled. I had a plan and made sure the medium could know nothing at all about me. The woman was from England, billed as an old-school medium, and highly recommended from the quotes on her flyer. She was in town for a short time, staying with a friend I also didn't know, and took appointments by phone. Since she knew absolutely no one who knew me, and took only my first name, it felt pretty clean. As I drove to the address on the flyer, everything that could have gone wrong did. Construction, wrong turns, and she wasn't even there when I arrived. I was tempted, and to be honest, afraid enough, to turn around and go home. I'd find someone else, maybe. But she arrived with groceries just as I was about to leave. She'd clearly forgotten about me, but made it sound like she was just running late. I had a chip on my shoulder, and it felt like she had one on hers, for reasons I could not imagine. I hadn't done anything wrong. It wouldn't be the first time another person with the gift would get weird on me. Having absolutely no prior experience with any magically inclined person of any sort so far in my life, at that point it made no sense. But there I was, and there she was, so I went in. As she put away her groceries, I looked around. Older furniture, nothing fancy, a little dusty. It wasn't the best part of Washington, D.C., I noted, looking out the window. Through the kitchen door, I could see her clothes matched the place. Nothing wild or Merlin the magician-like. Her hair was a little on the erratic Einstein side. Mostly, she just looked like an elderly-ish English lady. I got out my pen and paper and reminded myself that she could know nothing about me. If she was to get things right, it would be some kind of proof of something. That scared me as much as the heebie-jeebies I got from her. "I'm not exactly sure what you do," I said. Not completely true, but still pretty true. She took offense. "I communicate with those who have crossed over. Isn't that why you came?" "Yes, I had a friend who died, a Nell," I said. Immediately I was upset with myself. I wasn't going to give anything away. "Don't tell me," she insisted, then pointed to the ceiling. "They will tell me." I stopped talking to satisfy both her and myself. "Let me connect," she said with a huge heaving sigh, as if I were far more of a burden than she desired. I was immediately uncomfortable. I hadn't really thought about the fact that we would be inviting dead people into the room. I mean, that was obvious, but somehow it had escaped me that it might be visceral. I surely had never intended anyone dead to talk on purpose before. But I could feel their arrival. Like someone turned the cold air up, way up, and the dust started smelling of, well, dead people. I realized that this was part of my discomfort from the start. It was like dead people had been following me all the way there. Did they want me there, or did they not want me there? "There's a little girl, high up in the light," the medium says, her own voice more airy than it had been before. She waved her hands higher and higher towards the ceiling. "Mary, Marie." She didn't look to me to validate. She looked up. Even so, I shook my head. Nope, no Mary I know of. She's insisting I say Marie, I think. Instantly, I froze. Marie, as in Nell Marie? Now she looks at me. She says yes. Again, she turns to the ceiling. "Why did you give me your middle name?" "Oh, because Robin has already said your name was Nell." She looked at me square on. She wanted you to know it was really her. Instantly and completely sober. That's the only way I can describe my now rapt attention. I nodded. I didn't expect names, like real names, accurate names. "Why is she high in the light?" I asked. "Oh, she's an old soul. She knew what she was doing. She only meant to be here for a few years." I had no idea what to think about that, but I was less thinking than feeling, anyway. I could feel her. Nell, that light I remembered. It was the first time I felt it since I saw her in the hospital. Nell, really? You're here? I think but do not say. Cannot say. She says she watches you from up there and helps when needed. She's part of your team. I have a team? Inside, I'm thinking, you came. Nell, you actually came. I held back the tears, but barely. It was wonderful, surprising, impossible. I got the chills head to toe. We all have teams, the medium said. Let me look. Oh, wow, you really have a lot of members on your team. Way more than just your dead Aunt Matilda. Not that you had one, it's just an expression. No wonder I'm exhausted. Exhausted already? Okay, your gal in the light is fading and another guy is coming in. My brother? I ask, realizing I'm giving myself away again. Damn, girl, rein it in. No, she replies, looking to her left and then again to her right. Your brother doesn't want to come in with this guy here. I think he's your father. David? Did they not get along? Fuck, you gotta be kidding me. David, his name, his actual name? She just said it. His actual name. He's handing you a rose, she said. For what? He says for your birthday. My birthday, it was a month ago. Oh, your other birthday, she replies after listening to what might actually have been my father standing right there. Not sure what that means. Fuck, I know what it means. I can feel it. My awakening. So he knows about that kind of thing. So this is what it feels like to be in my father's presence again, I thought. I mean, he is here, right now, here, right now. Some part of it would not compute. Another part felt it was all too clear and all too real. He says he knew about a lot of the stuff you're doing now. He was into it too, but he didn't take it in the right direction. No fucking fuck shit. Again, I did not say this out loud, but it must have been obvious in the goosebumps standing my hair on end and my bulging eyes. He says he's proud of you. You're doing well. She didn't sound convinced. Do you have any questions? Only a million, I thought, but did not say. I needed to think. Did he love me? I finally asked, half ashamed to need to know. I assumed she would offer a big gushing yes. I mean, what kind of spiritual type wouldn't when a girl asks this of her dad? Medium lady waves her hands around as she translates what she hears. He's saying, what is love? Oh, fuck, that is so my dad. Is it? Could it really be him? No, it is. This cannot be happening. It can't. It is. Fuck! After a few more remarkably on-target details, Dad steps away, but Ricky still won't or can't come in. Nell is gone. I ask about past lives, and the medium says she doesn't know a thing about that. Isn't one life hard enough? And so we close. I pay the woman $85, thinking that despite her prickly personality, this was the best money I'd spent in my entire life. She didn't take my information for the next time she was in town. We both knew we didn't like each other enough for that. Didn't matter. I got what I wanted. I drove home with only fuck on my lips, and a significant sense that Dad was riding shotgun. I mean, fuck. Sorry for any kids listening. The best part was how beautiful Nell felt, though. High in the light. I knew that even when she was alive. I still didn't know about God, but light? Yes, I could see that. Feel it. I could feel her with me. That was priceless, beyond measure, beyond anything I ever thought I would have in my life. I got home and looked at my notes for my spreadsheet. I had taken none that fit anywhere on my list of things to listen for. Shaken, but more eager than ever. It would be hard to wait for my next encounter, this time with a psychic. But one thing held my attention more than any other. If my father were present, and Nell too, and if Ricky was avoiding my father, then Ricky was somewhere out there. As the thought fell into place, this precious pearl of a story, I felt my heart unbreak just a little. Of course, I called Terry. Enter your labyrinth at BeWhoYouAre.com.